This is Hayes Q Jones, your DVD and Blu-ray baller on a budget, and this is HQ Videos for you. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please like, share, subscribe. If you're a current subscriber, what's up? You're greatly appreciated. Come on in, make yourself at home. You know the routine. This week, for my collection video, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite genres, science fiction. And we'll start out from science fiction, the best, in my opinion, the best top five science fiction pictures from the 70s when I was a kid. Yes, I'm that old. Tag to remember movies from the 70s. And I grew up watching television series like Star Trek, Space 1999, and that is probably what piqued my interest into science fiction, as well as reading science fiction growing up as a kid. So without further ado, I'm going to give you my favorite or top five science fiction movies from the 70s. So sit back, relax, have a drink, have a smoke, and I'll catch you on the other end of this video. We are back at the Black Cave. Back at the Black Cave. We are back at the motherfucking Black Cave. Gonna jump right into it with my first pick, or my number 5 pick for my top 5 best science fiction pictures from the 70s. This is Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange. This came out in 1971. Crime, drama, science fiction thriller starring Malcolm McDowell as Alex, Patrick McGee, Michael Bates, Warren Clark, and John Clive. This is directed, produced, and written by Stanley Kubrick. Cinematography by John Alcott. For some reason, I thought Stanley Kubrick did the cinematography. Essentially, you have Malcolm McDowell playing this demonic gang leader, Alex, who goes on this spree of molesting, mugging, and murdering with a pack of his group he calls Droogs. But he's a boy who also likes Beethoven's Ninth Symphony and a bit of the old In and Out, In and Out. If you haven't seen the movie, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. He later finds himself in this situation of mercy where he's being brainwashed and designed to hate violence. Fantastic film. I think this and The Shining made me a Stanley Kubrick fan. This made me a Malcolm McDowell fan. Something about him in this picture. He is so maniacal, so evil, but yet charismatic at the same time. I can think of some politicians who fit that bill. But the storyline is somewhat karma. Pretty much what you put out in the ether will come back to you. And just the design, you still might see people, 30, 50 years later, wearing the Clockwork Orange uniform with the black hats, with the white garb, with the white cod piece. So if you haven't seen this, and just give you a heads up, it's science fiction, but it's very explicit. It has some very violent scenes in it though, but very well written, very well directed. Malcolm McDowell is this and Caligula are probably his best films ever. So you haven't checked this out before, 1971's Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange. My next pick is the 1978 horror mystery science fiction thriller Invasion of the Body Snatchers. This stars the late Donald Sutherland, Kiefer Sutherland's father. May he rest in peace. He just passed, I think, a couple weeks ago. Brooke Adams, Jeff Goldblum, Veronica Cartwright, the late Leonard Nimoy from Star Trek. He played Spock. This was directed by Philip Kaufman, produced by Robert H. Solo, written by W.D. Richer, and cinematography by Michael Chapman. With this is actually the first remake. This is a remake of the original Body Snatchers, which came out maybe in the 50s or 60s in black and white. This takes place in a small town in San Francisco, and the main character, Kiefer Sutherland, knows that several of his friends are complaining that their close relatives, significant others, are acting different. And he investigates more and finds out there's some kind of replacement that's going on from these intergalactic or outer space entities that are dropping these pods, and these pods are turning into human beings. If you haven't seen this before, great movie, fantastic movie. I saw the original. The original was good, but it's very slow. And of course, this is, I think, in the 50s, so the sci-fi effects weren't that great. With this, especially coming out in 1978, you had a fantastic story. You had great actors, Kiefer Sutherland, Leonard Nimoy, and the special effects, especially at that time, though, were pretty decent, though. And this is, I forgot to mention the last one, with Clockwork Orange. Clockwork Orange was a Warner Brothers release. This is an MGM release. And I wouldn't be surprised if this get a 4K release. I'm surprised it hasn't already, though. But my number 4 pick, the 1978 classic remake of the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, starring the late Donald Sutherland, Kiefer's father, and the late Dr. Spock, Leonard Nimoy. My number 3 pick is the 1977 drama science fiction movie, Close Encounters. This was directed by Steven Spielberg, written by Steven Spielberg, Hal Barwood, Jerry Belson, John Will, Matthew Robbins, produced by Clark Palau, Julia Phillips, and Michael Phillips. Cinematography by Vilmos Zsigmond. This stars Richard Dreyfuss, Francis Truffaut, Terry Garr, Melinda Dillon, and Bob Balaban. And essentially you have Richard Dreyfuss' character, Ron Neary, who goes out on, he's an electrician, so he goes out on this electrical emergency. There's a blackout in the city, and he encounters an unidentified flying object. And from there, his life completely changes. What is so iconic and so different about this specific Close Encounters movie, that it used UFO folklore or history, however you want to view it. It starts out with the flights from, I think it's 1941, around that time. The flights that went out of Florida that were missing, that's part of the film. It actually has one of the investigators from Project Blue Book, Heinrich, I can't think of his last name, but it actually has one of the actual investigators of UFOs. He has a cameo scene towards the end of the movie. This is just a phenomenal movie, especially if you're a UFO nut like I am, or if you like alien movies, or you believe that there's life outside this galaxy. Fantastic movie. It plays on ufology. It plays on just basic human curiosity on life beyond the stars. Richard Dreyfuss, who I think is somewhat of an asshole right now, does an excellent job. Great special effects. I think there's at least 2 or 3 different versions of Close Encounters. I don't know how many. I've seen this movie more than 10, 20 times, though. I think there's a director's cut where they go in depth with the UFO at the end, and they show, I think, a little bit of the inside of it, though. But fantastic movie. I think one of the best things about this, you don't see the aliens until the very end. So it's constantly building up this suspense on, what's out there, what they look like. And the UFO scenes are evenly spaced throughout the movie. So it keeps that constant anticipation going, though, but it gives you little bits and pieces. And just one of the best science fiction UFO movies ever, in my opinion, though. I think everything after this, I have to compare it to Close Encounters. 1970, 77 or 78? I think I said it's 1977. 1977's drama, science fiction film, Close Encounters. My number 2 pick, this is the 1979 horror science fiction movie, Alien. This was directed by Ridley Scott, produced by Dan O'Bannon, Ronald Shusett, produced by Gordon Carroll, David Giller, Walter Hill, Ivor Powell, Ronald Shusett, music by Jerry Goldsmith, and photography by Derek Van Lent. And Jerry Goldsmith, if I recall correctly, you see his name a lot on television series in the 80s, so could be mistaken though. This stars Tom Stewart, Sigourney Weaver, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton, and John Hurt. And essentially, this is during the return to Earth's commercial spaceship Nostromo, and intercepts a distress signal from a distant planet when 3 members of the team of the crew discover a chamber containing thousands of eggs on a planet and a creature inside of the eggs, and that's where the movie takes off. This is my number 2 pick. One, I think this was, I'm not going to say one of the first, but one of the best science fiction horror movies. Usually, they were either science fiction or horror. I think it did a great job of doing the space exploration and having these ferocious, predatorial type of creatures in a sci-fi setting. And this is a franchise that has been able to stand the test of time. First movie came out in 1979, and it's 2024, and they're coming out with another Alien Romulus. They've even been clever enough to team up with Predator. So there's actually 2 Alien Predator movies. Be very interested to see if they're going to do another team up of that. And I like that they've been able to keep Sigourney Weaver through most of the movies. I think it's only 1 or 2 that she might not have been in. I'm not positive. I think she's been in most of them, but I think 1 or 2 that she hasn't been in. So I just have, this is not actually even the complete collection now, since I think this one, the last movie in this is Alien Resurrection. I know they've had at least 1 or 2 other Alien movies, and again, the next one coming out, Alien Romulus. So my number 2 pick for outstanding 1970s science fiction movie, Alien. My number 1 pick is the 1977 action-adventure fantasy science fiction film, Star Wars. This was directed and written by George Lucas, produced by Gary Kurtz, George Lucas, Rick McCallum, James Nelson, music by John Williams, photography by Gilbert Taylor. This stars Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, the late Carrie Fisher, I think the late Peter Cushing, and the late Sir Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi. And this, in my opinion, Star Wars was the movie that pretty much changed science fiction on the big screen. Everything after that had to be as good or better than Star Wars. And this is another movie from the late 70s that has still been able to maintain a franchise, even though they've been bought out by Disney. they have been able to spawn off spin-off shows from Star Wars, not just having other movies like Return of the Empire, Return of the Jedi. Now they actually have shows like The Mandalorian, Andor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Boba Fett. So, and be honest, when I saw this as a kid, I was hooked. I was a Star Wars fan after that. I had the Star Wars cards, Star Wars figures, and even as an adult, a middle-aged adult with a teenage and adult son, still watch it. Can't wait for Obi-Wan to come out for the second season. Hopefully they come out with the second season. Still have 2 more episodes of The Acolyte to watch with the boys. So my number 1 science fiction movie from the 70s, Star Wars. If you made it this far, I greatly appreciate it. Smash the like. Give me the big thumbs up. Ring the bell. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. Again, give me the big thumbs up. Help the algorithm. Help more people see my collection so I can see what you have and see what I have. But other than that, may the best of your past be the worst of your future. Everyone be safe. Deuces.